10 minutes more. I think some people are gathering already. So let us go to the questions. As I have always emphasized, this text, it's not a novel. Huh? We have to read it many times and try to see the connection between the beginning, between the middle, between, and now towards the end. Actually, the genius of the writer, whoever it may be, now I can see you, you know, is that he more or less always says the same thing, but on a different levels and in a different context. So this is why this text has inspired so many Zen masters. Actually, in theory, Zen is very simple. Pure Land is also very simple, but to understand and to practice it according to the true understanding. That's why we always work on two levels of understanding. Remember, in the beginning, we have the level of understanding from the point of view of the highest reality, which is not changing. Then we have, and which penetrates everywhere and which does not make distinctions, and in which the essence, the characteristics, and the functions always work together, never separate. So one essence becomes all essences, one principle become all principles, one characteristics become all characteristics. This is a famous intranet in which each and every phenomena reflects all the other phenomena. Each and every atom reflects all the other atoms, and the functions also. One function contains all functions, and all functions are in one function. So, in this perspective, as we have learned, the Buddhas, the unenlightened persons, and the world, they form one inseparable whole. This is the non-dualistic philosophy. Then we have the level of understanding from the point of view of the mind, which arises and passes away. Now, we always come back to the same principle. That which arises and passes away is because we get hold of the characteristic of the object. In Chinese, it is called xiang. In Sanskrit, it is called nimitta. Nimitta means a sign or the picture. In the Chinese tradition, also xiang means arising. Whatever arises because we take the characteristics of the object and we hold to this characteristic of the object as being really there. It is there from the point of view of this aspect of the mind arising and passing away. But it is not really there from the aspect of the mind which has never arisen and can never pass. That which has not arisen can never pass. And as we will continue learning and try to understand more, and only then we can understand the depths of the non-dualistic meditation. This passing and arising in each and every moment appears together with that which does not pass and which does not arise. In order to see this clearly, we have to be enlightened. We have to become the Bhumi Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva who has actually directly realized the suchness. Suchness means emptiness, but the non-dualistic emptiness is called suchness, tathata. In Chinese, Zhenru, which means the true suchness. Why true? Because it's always true. And the mind which is connected with the suchness is the true mind. Now, we want to realize a non-dualistic realization. We have to work with this mind. So the author of this treatise always comes back to this mind, to this true mind, Zhen Shi, from which everything arises. So we have learned in the beginning, everything arises from the suchness. And suchness cannot be grasped and is not opposed to any arising. That is why it can contain all the arising and it contains all the cessations. This is the non-dualistic understanding of our experience. This non-dualistic understanding of our experiences is called in this tradition, which has so deeply influenced all Chinese concepts of meditation, is called I Xing San Mei. San Mei means samadhi. I Xing means one samskara. Because in a non-dualistic mind, there cannot appear 2, 3, 4, 5 samskaras together. They can only appear one samskara, and it appears as soon as we pay attention to any object. Now, some scholars, like the famous Yin Shun, was of the opinion even that the author of this treatise, whoever it may have been, was influenced by the Vimutti Magga, Jie Tuo Tao Lun, which was translated into Chinese, attributed to an Arahat, and important to know this Vimutti Magga, or the path of liberation, is the, so to say, the background or the base for Buddhaghosa's writing the Visuddhimagga, the path of purification. Path of purification is a kind of further development of the path of liberation, Vimutti-magga. And in the Vimutti-magga, in the Visuddhimagga, as we should know, the process of cognition starts with attention, manasikara. Manasikara literally means making something in the mind. Mind is, by its nature, is empty. That's why you can make anything in it. Good, bad, useful, non-useful. Because it has no content as such. So it can accept all the contents. And all the contents appear in the process of paying attention, manasikara. Now, according to the Mahayana philosophy, especially further developed in tantric concepts, when we become the fully realized Buddhas, we don't use any attention. I think I have mentioned that before. We don't use any vitarka vichara. We don't use any applied attention, sustained attention to be aware of anything. We will just reflect all realities like in the mirror. When we have attained the non-dualistic realization, our alaya consciousness, which is the base for all other so-called pravritti vijnanas, active consciousnesses, it actually contains in itself all the seeds of the previous experiences, through which we then guide our attention to the object. We guide our attention to the object due to our previous experiences. And where these previous experiences have been stored. In Theravada, it is called bhavanga, which literally means a cause of existence. In Mahayana, it is called alaya. And this alaya, as we have learned in the beginning of this treatise, it has the aspect of non-arising and non-ceasing. And it also has the aspect of arising and ceasing. The aspect of non-arising and non-ceasing is connected with the jie, with the body aspect of the mind. And taking the arising and ceasing as something real is connected with the pujye, with the non-enlightened aspect of the mind. That we have learned. So in our case, our existence being based in our alaya, in our store consciousness. Store consciousness is that which, on one hand, gathers the experiences, and on the other hand, it reacts to the experiences, and so it can contain them. Because it is a vipaka consciousness, it is a resultant consciousness, so it does not resist our six consciousness, resist to some objects, attached to other objects, but this consciousness is a resultant consciousness, so it does not resist to anything. It gathers all the useful mental processes. It gathers also all the troublesome mental processes which cause us all kinds of mental troubles, arising as attachment, as anger, as jealousy, as the pride, and wrong views and so on. And also as anger depends on uh, the attention to the object. And attention to the object is in this treatise, same like in Visuddhimagga, in Vimuttimagga, is the attention to the object, manasikara. Now, because we pay attention to the object, in Theravada arises that which is called avajanachita. That means mind evolving. Avarjana means evolving or developing. The mind develops because it turns to the object. If it does not turn to the object, it will not develop. Then this developing consciousness is called in Chinese Zhuan Shi. In Sanskrit, it is called Kyati Vijnana. Kyati means revelation. It reveals. So when we pay attention to the object is revealed to us. Revealed to us from where? From the base of consciousness. Because in this tradition, the consciousness is that which contains all the dharmas, that which precedes all the dharmas, all the phenomena, that which rules all the phenomena. So when we turn to the object, the consciousness will reveal from where? From the consciousness itself. This is very important. So ultimately, there is only one reality here in this tradition, the reality of the consciousness from which the objects are revealed. And having been revealed, they return back to that consciousness. So when we have the revealing consciousness, then we have something which is revealed. In this tradition of Yogacara, Madhyamika also does not deny this store consciousness. Only what Nagarjuna says, that it cannot really exist because in essence, nothing exists. Now, in this tradition, everything that arises is revealed through the consciousness. So the consciousness, in order to bring it back to its natural state, which is emptiness, you have to affirm its existence. Otherwise, there is a danger of nihilism. This is the theory of the Vijnanavada, of the Chittamata, of the consciousness-only school. According to Madhyamika, you don't need to affirm anything having true existence. In this tradition, you have to affirm the existence of consciousness in order to realize its true nature, which is emptiness. The non-dualistic emptiness means suchness, right? So we have learned in the beginning, we have three kinds of consciousnesses from which our experience in the world are is manifesting. We have the karma consciousness, which is the karmic aspect of consciousness. This karmic aspect of consciousness is called in this traditional Chittamatrata is called the Svasamviti. Svasamviti means the consciousness which witnesses itself. The consciousness has to move in order to witness itself. If it does not move, how can it witness itself? Hmm? So when it moves, it immediately appears together with the Tianfen and Xiangfen, with the aspect of the seeing and the aspect of what is seen. So you have learned these three aspects is the real nature of our experience. Whenever the mind moves, immediately there is this karmic aspect of consciousness, which is the source of our ignorance. We identify with this moving mind as being the self. And because the mind moves due to ignorance, it is not the true nature of the mind. Ignorant the true nature of the mind is a suchness, which is true. That's why it is called Genru, because uh, it can reflect all the objects in reality. It does not take anything away from them. It does not add anything to them. No samaropa, no apavada, no taking away, not adding anything. And that is suchness. And this suchness is the true nature of the consciousness, to which you cannot add anything, you cannot take away anything, because it reflects things just like the mirror. Now, because we don't see the function of the mirror, we believe that these reflections in the mirror, they come from outside. But they do not come from outside. When the mind starts to move, these reflections appear. When the mind stops moving, these reflections also stop. So the process of mentation starts with making attention to the object. Making attention to the object means putting some object into the consciousness. But this consciousness is by nature, you have learned in this book, it is by nature free from objects. It is by nature free from thinking. These objects, the thinking, comes from the uh, ignorance aspect of the consciousness with which we identify. We identify with it, therefore, we take this aspect of seeing, an aspect of what is seen, as being something different. So we believe there is really something outside, different from the consciousness. But it has never arisen. It was never there. When we understanding, this is a I Ching San Mei, the samadhi of one samskara. The samskara means will formation. When the mind moves, it produces something, it forms something. But it forms something, it producing something from where? From emptiness, from suchness, from dharmakaya, from one mind. Hmm? So, with this understanding, we have finished the last lesson when we have learned that this true mind, this suchness mind, permeates everywhere because its nature is not moving. It is completely free from all defilements. When the mind does not move, then no defilements will come from it. Only when it moves, defilements can arise. Right? And its nature is luminosity, this luminosity and emptiness. They are the true nature of the mind. And this luminosity and emptiness, which is the true nature of the mind, they are not impermanent, they are permanent nature. They are not connected with dukkha, they are connected with sukha. They are not connected with the unauspicious state, with a bad state. Du literally means bad, su means good. They are not connected with anything bad. They are always connected with everything good. They are not connected with all the troubles, vexations. It's always connected with all the virtues. Remember the Pragya Paramita literature, the literature explaining the great wisdom. The true virtues do not belong to any individuals. Individuals in Buddhism, they are not really existing. They, of course, exist, but only in conventional reality. In the highest reality, there is not any individual. And this conventional reality is based on the moving mind. The moving mind can produce virtues, can produce the non-virtues. But the highest virtues, the sum of all virtues, comes from the non-moving mind. This non-moving mind, only in regard to this non-moving mind, as the Diamond Sutra teaches, we can realize the perfections. The perfections cannot be fully realized with in terms of the moving mind. They can only be realized in terms of the non-moving mind. Because this non-moving mind is eo ipso, it's by its own nature, is the perfect. And that which is perfect, you cannot add anything to it, you cannot take anything from it. When you do that, as this text, we will come to it today in our reading, as this text explains, we want to add to it something, we want to take away from it something, because there is something missing. Fa. But in this true mind, nothing is missing. This, that is why it is called the Dharmakaya, the body of the Dharma. In this body of the Dharma, the essence, the characteristics, and the functions, they are great, measureless, and equal. Hmm? So, because this true mind is not connected with any kinds of uh, vexations, it is always luminous, it is all penetrating. So, it is the true self, not the true self as something separate from the other selves. It is the Paramatman, the highest self. This highest self, it is the highest self because it contains everything and does not oppose any phenomena. It just reflects them as they are. So this is where we ended. Again, I have to connect it with this background, otherwise you will always have some misunderstanding and some difficulty in putting things together. So we have to put things together before we start with something new. So we have ended last time with the characteristics of the true mind, which is always cool. Cool means free from the fever of vexations. It is always, it is eternal, it is blissful, it is a true self, it is always pure. Remember the four viparyasas, the four perversions. Because we have these four perversions, we have ignorance. Because we have the perversion of seeing permanence in that which by definition can only be impermanent, that which arises can only be impermanent, that which arises and is impermanent, that cannot bring a lasting satisfaction, that which cannot bring the lasting satisfaction cannot be the true self. This is the link of Buddhism to the Upanishads. You have to find the true self in order to be liberated from the bondage. And it is by definition pure in case of that which arises and which cannot bring the lasting satisfaction. So it cannot be self and cannot be pure. It is just the opposite. But the self that is described here, this Paramatman, is uh, different, at least so it is explained in the scriptures. The Lankavatara Sutra, which is the base for the Chan tradition, brought to China by the great realized Bodhidharma, Damo, who is a symbol of this tradition. The Dhammo taught the Lankavatara Sutra, the Ascent to Lanka Sutra, in which it is clearly explained that this idea of the self is in order to appease those who still believe in self as being something real. In Buddhism, all teachings are just skillful means. And this skillful means of the true self, which does not belong to any self, which is not Atman but Paramatman, which is beyond anything you can grasp, is the most powerful, skillful means, says the Lankavatara, to convert the intelligent people who believe in the true self. Indian tradition is all based on searching, as far as transmitted in the Upanishad, searching for the true self, which is neither this nor that, which you cannot grasp. But this true self, let's accept it, let it be true self, but it is not the self, it is that which is the supreme self. Only the supreme self can contain all the other selves. So the idea of this treatise is, just like Lankavatara idea, this treatise is very closely connected to Lankavatara, is the idea that the true self is does not belong to anyone. It is ungraspable. It is beyond affirmation, beyond negation, beyond grasping. And so it continues the tradition of the sutras of great wisdom, of the perfection of the wisdom. The very nature of the true mind is nirvana. In nirvana also, to nirvana you cannot add anything. From nirvana you cannot take away anything. Yet it exists parallel to the world, not grasping in it, not opposing it. And we, in the tradition of the disciples, we understand this nirvana by negating the true existence of any form. In this tradition, the existence of forms does not also is not opposed to nirvana, because from the very beginning, the mind and the forms, they were never separated. They are one reality. So the true practice is not to turn to something and turn away from another thing. The true practice is understand them in the state of samadhi. The samadhi here is called the samadhi of one samskara. When we put something into the mind, we understand that it does not really belong to it. And this is the awareness to be realized by practice of non-dualistic meditation. It does not mean that it does not exist. It certainly exists. There are good things, there are bad things, there are the profitable thing, unprofitable things. There is a healthy, there is a non-healthy. All this exists and governs our life, but it does not govern the true nature of the mind. So in the true nature of the mind, all Buddhas, all beings and all objects form one inseparable reality. And who understands it? This is one mind. We come back again to the beginning of this treatise. Hmm? One mind is the Fa, is the Dharma. In this one mind, all phenomena appear, all phenomena disappear, but they do not appear really because they don't have any self-existence, and they don't disappear really. That which does not have any self-existence does not appear really and does not disappear really. So in the beginning, and we have learned this scripture wants to take us to the beginning. In the beginning, which is a state of true mind, in the beginning, all phenomena are unbound, because they are perfectly isolated. And this is what is to be realized. The phenomena arise and phenomena cease, but can never get hold of the true mind. This true mind is always in purity because it is always connected with awareness. So it can turn this aspect of self-witnessing of the seer and the seen, this alaya consciousness from which everything arises, into the wisdom of the great mirror. When we have the wisdom of the great mirror, in this tradition, we become the Buddhas. Then the seventh individual consciousness sees everything in terms of sameness. The mental consciousness, which is the base of the five senses through which we understand the outer world, is the beautiful seeing because it does not attach to anything. And the five senses become the wisdom of accomplishing whatever one wants to accomplish, because one just reflects things as they are, not getting soiled by them. So this is the aspect which has been explained before of the unthinkable karma. Pusaiye. This pusaiye belongs to the true knowledge. Gender, and the true knowledge is inseparable from this aspect of the always pure mind, non-changing mind. So the text continues, as this suchness is endowed with such inconceivable Buddha dharmas, when we see through the perspective of the mind non-arising and non-ceasing, whatever arises and ceases, then we see the inconceivable Buddha dharmas. The inconceivable Buddha dharmas. Buddha does not produce any dharmas. He only reflects dharma so as to help us, deluded beings who still believe these dharmas, they exist as something separate from the true nature of our mind. So the Buddha dharmas, whose number surpasses the number of sands in the river Ganga. Why? How is it possible? Why is the Buddha Dharma surpasses the number of the grain of sands in the great river of the Ganga, which are nobody can count? Because we have learned in the beginning, because everything arises from in regard to it. And also the karmic aspect of consciousness, which moves our mind, and the seer and the seen aspect of the consciousness, which is responsible that from the karmic aspect of consciousness comes the revealing aspect of consciousness. When we have a revealing aspect of consciousness, we have the aspect of that which is revealed. So here we come similarity to the Theravada Abhidharma. Our consciousness arises from the bhavanga, from the root or cause of existence. When we connect it with an object, there are two kinds of objects according to Theravada. One is arising from outside, that is revealed to us through the five senses, and that which arises from the mind directly, like in a dream. When it arises from outside, then the consciousness has to accept it, has to investigate it, has to go through it, and then when the process of investigating the object, then it falls back to the base of consciousness, the cause of existence, the alaya, the abode of consciousness. The consciousness, as Dhammapada explains, has no abode. Is anoka. Oka means house. The nature of consciousness has no abode. When we have realized the nature of consciousness, we become Buddhas. We have also no abode. That does not mean we don't need any house. It does not mean we don't need to work. But it means that within these limitations, we have found the true freedom, which does not belong to these limitations. So these virtues of the true mind, they can never be separated from this Buddha dharmas, from this true consciousness which reveals the Buddha dharmas. They can never, even when we are the most deluded beings, even when we become thieves, even when we do all kinds of things to harm beings, this nature of consciousness cannot change. And that is its great virtue. So this true nature of consciousness reveals the aspect of the self-revealing of being conscious of oneself, because when mind moves, one becomes conscious of oneself, of one's store consciousness from which the objects appear. And when the objects when mind moves, then there appears the illusion that there is a seer and there is something seen as being separate from each other. Then, as we have learned, this we have this aspect of the zhi xiang, that consciousness based on the Vedana. Vedana is derived from the Sanskrit root vid, which means to know. When there is a seer aspect of consciousness, a seen aspect of consciousness, then we know something. When we know something, we feel something. When we feel something, we have continuity of the mind. We have learned all that. So these 5 aspects of the consciousness, that is manas. When we have manas, we have continuity. Then we can cling to this continuity as being the self. And when we cling to this continuity of being the self, we don't cling to the real object. We cling to the concepts we make about the objects. So we take the names, the sentences, the syllables as being something real through which we communicate our experience. Without them, we cannot communicate our experience. So, so even whatever happens, we can never be separated from these Buddha dharmas, and we cannot be different from them to the extent of being satisfied by them without lacking even the smallest thing. So it is the womb of Tathagata in our heart, in our mind, in the essence of our mind. Or it is also called the Dharmakaya, the body of the Dharma, and also its name is suchness, Tathata. And the Buddha is indeed one who comes in suchness, Tatha Agata, and one who goes in suchness, Tathagata. So the true dharmas, they always come and go in suchness. They can never be separated from suchness. We separate them from suchness because of our ignorance, which makes us take the moving mind as something really belonging to us, something being us, something identical with the self. And on the base of this, we then take the mind which turns to the object and uh, which reveals the object as something really being there. We take them as something really existing. So we have feelings. Because we have feelings, we have continuity. Continuity of mind is based on pleasant feelings and unpleasant feelings. And when we have not penetrated this mechanism, then all we know is just our views and our attachments. Can never go beyond. That is why we had these 2 aspects of practice, 2 aspects of mind, one based on 6 consciousness, which is based on the continuity of consciousness, which is the organ of consciousness, manas. When we practice non-dualistic meditation, then we start with the faith in this true mind. Which is beyond anything one can grasp. So when we start practicing in Theravada tradition, as I have done, then you just learn the 5 aggregates, the 12 spheres of perception, the 18 elements of perception, the dependent origination. That is the true reality. But here you start with learning the true reality as being the Buddha dharmas, which are based not on the moving mind, the mind moves due to ignorance, but which are based on knowledge and clarity. Knowledge and clarity is the nature of the true mind, from which the phenomena arise. So, in this non-dualistic tradition, then the essence, which is ungraspable, and the phenomena, which are the characteristics of things that appear, that are the signs of things that appear. Unless we take a sign, we perceive something, a sign of an object. We cannot contemplate an object. We cannot distinguish an object. Right? You should see it very clearly. So we can only perceive an object when we take a sign of some object as being really there. Otherwise, what can we perceive? And when we don't perceive, we cannot feel. And when we cannot feel, we cannot distinguish. So, when we study Theravada, we learn that due to ignorance, we don't see that whatever sign we distinguish is impermanent, is unsatisfactory state of being in impermanence, and it is non-self and impure. Here, you start from the opposite side. All that appears from the true mind, and true mind is filled with Buddha dharmas and has as many virtues as uncountable virtues, unthinkable virtues. Because the true virtues belongs to that which is beyond the bondage of the world. So whenever we seize something, we seize the sign of the object. So that's why we explain in Chinese tradition, the xiang, the sign, means also arising. Nothing arises without a nimitta, without the sign of the object. But the reality of the mind is signless. That which is signless is empty. And that which is empty, you cannot desire. You desire only that which you believe is not empty. So in this world of the Buddha Dharmas, the non-dualistic principle and the phenomena which appear in this non-dualistic principle, they are, as Avatamsaka Sutra, Hawaiian tradition explained, they are never separated. And because they are never separated, the Li and She are never separated. Therefore, the phenomena also never separated. She, never separated. We understand them as separated because we identify with this moving mind. But in reality, they are never separated. So even when we identify with these phenomena, we are never separated from them. And when we understand it, we understand that the true nature of things, as all the Mahayana sutras explain, are unthinkable. So the true nature of the polluted and pure is also unthinkable. So that which appears to us as impure, that can be very useful for our understanding of the pure. And that which appears to us as pure can be very, very useful for our understanding of the impure. Because we take this separating mind as something real, therefore we are separated from the true nature of the mind, which is, as we have said, is knowledge and luminosity. And this knowledge and luminosity is connected with that, connected with non-dualistic realization, this omniscience. Omniscience means sarva akara sarvagyata. When we become arahats, we have also omniscience, but not sarva akara sarvagyata, not omniscience in regard to all the dharmas. According to this non-dualistic tradition, the arahat does not understand that all dharmas are only Buddha dharmas. That's why he wants to turn away from samsara and go into nirvana. But in this tradition, everything from the very beginning arises from that true nature of the reality, which is called suchness. We have learned it in the beginning of this treatise. So, because we need the Buddha's knowledge of non-duality, then we will understand on the base of this knowledge, which we study only in the non-dualistic meditation, that all the aspects that appear to us are inseparable from this true mind. So there is not a single thing separated from the ultimate reality, which is the uh, the knowledge and luminosity. So this is a teaching of the Uttara Tantra Shastra, which is widely studied in the Tibetan Buddhism, in Chinese Buddhism. This Uttara Tantra Shastra is not so important, but it is this treatise is based on the same principles as Uttara Tantra Shastra. And in the Tibetan tradition, this Uttara Tantra Shastra is attributed to the Maitreya, not in Chinese tradition. So all good and all bad are contained in the true nature of the mind. And this true nature of the mind is present in us, ignorant beings, in the form of Tathagata Garbha, the matrix of Tathagata. In this matrix of Tathagata, all dharmas are Buddha dharmas. There is nothing except the Buddha dharmas. And this Buddha dharmas, or suchness, or non-dualistic emptiness, it is the common characteristics of everything that appears. Nothing can appear without this common characteristic. When we learn Theravada Buddhism, we learn the special characteristics of all the phenomena and the common characteristic, which is impermanence and so on. Now, we have only one common characteristic, which is suchness. And in this suchness appear all the special characteristics of the phenomena, like when we receive an object, we have a sensation. When we take a sign of the object, we have perception. When we touch an object, we have a hardness, which is earth. Of course, hardness does not exist separate from softness and so on. And this is the world you study in the analytical meditation in Vipassana. In this tradition, all these special and common characteristics arise from the suchness. Nothing can be separated from the suchness. Nothing can be separated from the Buddha dharmas. And this is the only reality. There is no other reality. The other reality does not exist simply. So no matter whether we experience something which is created, which is conditioned, or something which is not conditioned, we experience it on the base of this true consciousness in which the Buddha dharmas appear, in which the Dharmakaya appears. And in this tradition, the Dharmakaya is the true Buddha. And Dharmakaya is a synonym of the true Dharma element, Dharma Dhatu. It is a synonym of suchness. It is a synonym of the limit of reality. Beyond that limit, nothing can be experienced. And we are never separated from this reality. That which separates us from this reality is, in this tradition, our ignorance, which causes that we identify with the karmic mind. And we take it as belonging to the real self. Now, doubting student comes with a question. Before it was explained that suchness is sameness in its essence. We have learned that suchness is sameness. In suchness, everything appears in terms of sameness. So there is only one reality, the reality of suchness. The other reality does not exist. From the point of view of the highest reality, it can exist only from the point of view of the conventional reality. All the differences belong to conventional reality. The difference between samsara and nirvana is also only in terms of the conventional reality. In the highest reality, there is no such differentiation. That is why it belongs to the omniscience in all aspects. The disciple Arahat, who has realized nirvana, he has omniscience because he does not identify with his karma, but he still identifies with something being there and nirvana. But something being there and nirvana can never be separated. So question, before it was explained that suchness is sameness in its essence, free from all nimittas, free of all signs of the objects. So we have explained before, all that begins with the sign of the object. When we pay attention to the sign of the object, the mind appears. The mind appears from where? From the mind. So that is why in Chinese tradition, this xiang, when you put a heart under it, it will become perception. You need some xiang, some sign of the object to have perception. If you don't have sign of the object, what perception will arise? So this essence is free from all signs of the object. However, how can you also explain that its essence is endowed with such different qualities? So here is the confusion and the doubt. It is said that all the signs of the object appear from the essence, which is the true mind. That at the same time you, which is always same, at the same time you explain that this essence has innumerable characteristics and innumerable functions. This is what we have learned. Ta ti, ta xiang, ta yong. Which belongs to what? Which belongs to one mind. What is a one mind? It is the suchness. Now, the answer is, although suchness is indeed endowed with all virtues, nevertheless, it is characterized by not differentiation. Who are this non-differentiation is the true nature of the mind, to which you cannot add anything, from which you cannot take anything. And the differentiation appears, but it is never separated from non-differentiation. It cannot be separated from non-differentiation. If you separate it, then you only understand the conventional reality. You don't understand the highest reality. And according to the philosophy of Mahayana, according to the philosophy of the great wisdom, whatever you separate can only be conventional reality. It can never be the highest reality. In the highest reality, it is the highest reality because you cannot add anything to it and because you cannot take away anything from it. Therefore, it is the highest reality. So when you differentiate, then you have objects. When you have objects, you have memory of the object. When you have memory of the object, you have thinking. All this is conventional reality. Nobody doubts it is there. And there are innumerable conventional realities. Everybody lives in his own world based on his own differentiations. If we take these differentiations of being real, then we are separated from the true nature of our mind. It does not mean that they don't exist. They exist due to causes and conditions. And the causes and conditions explain the way to nirvana, but also explain the way to samsara, both. Way to nirvana is from cessation of ignorance. Way to samsara is from ignorance. We have learned all that. So, in this non-dualistic tradition, the nothing is really separated. So the form, the nature of the form is never separated from knowledge. Nature of perception is never separated from knowledge. Knowledge, the nature of our sensation is never separated from knowledge. Nature of the will formations is never separated from knowledge. And in a true knowledge, all the differences only belong to the conventional reality, not to the highest reality. And in the highest reality, the form, the perceptions, the sensations, the will formation, and consciousness, they are characterized by non-separation. The separation belongs only to the conventional reality, not to the highest reality. So whatever differences we make in terms of form, sensations, perceptions, and so on, they are only the manifestation of the conventional reality, which is indeed characterized by innumerable differences. But the true reality is a true reality because these differences, they vanish there. If they existed there, then it would not be the highest reality. So in this highest reality, all signs are abundant. So also all differentiation is also characterized by non-differentiation. And therefore, it is a non-dual reality. Otherwise, it is a dual reality. So the essence of the non-dual reality is asvabhavata, is the lack of any true nature whatsoever. The true nature arises only in the conventional reality. And when there is no true nature, then the non-dualistic wisdom appears. When there is a true nature, non-dualistic wisdom cannot appear. This is Mahayana. This is non-dualistic philosophy. This lakshya and lakshana, the characteristic, and that which produces the characteristic, they have always been inseparable. Because we don't see it, we cling to the conventional reality as being something belonging to the self, of the self, in the self, related to the self. And so we cling to wrong views and we cling to our attachments. So, as Vasubandhu says in the Vaishya Sankhya Sung, the 30 verses of establishing the Chitta Matrata, the mind only, this the true understanding in all aspects of the nature of the reality, the true understanding of everything that exists in terms of the Buddha dharmas, as we have explained, not in terms of the dharmas having the true non-changing characteristics. Nothing has non-changing characteristic because nothing has own nature. The nature of something is only revealed in regard to the others. Nothing can arise by itself. It cannot arise due to the others, because if it arises due to the others, then no question of attaining any highest reality. Then the both also not possible. It also not arises without a cause. So what is the solution? In the suchness, nothing really arises. Because in suchness, all the characteristics of the object belong only to the conventional reality. And we need the conventional reality to understand the true nature of the object as being asvabhavata, as being the lack of any established nature. Established nature only happens in our concepts. That's why it is called parikalpita, fabricated all around. When we don't fabricate anything, we can understand the true nature of our experience, in which you cannot find anything lasting. That which lasts is the suchness, which is the absence of real characteristics. Then another question, continuing on the previous one, then how will you explain the differentiation? Okay, differentiation does not exist. He accepts in the highest reality. Then how you explain differentiation? The answer of the writer, by the karmic consciousness. By the karmic consciousness. Due to the karma, we identify with the movement of the mind, with the movement of the speech, with the movement of the body, which is the karma. And this movement, according to the author, manifests the characteristics of samsara, the characteristic of the world in which we live, the world of impermanence, in which nothing can be grasped as really existing. Whatever you grasp as really existing, that is your concept of the reality. It is not the reality we have learned. And these concepts, they come from grasping. If we don't grasp, we don't need any concept. We just use them, but we use them for others, but we ourselves don't need them. The Buddha does not need any concepts, but he can master all the concepts to help us beings in ignorance. So in a true reality, there is no difference between the essence and the characteristics, which are revealed through the signs of the object. All characteristics to which we grasp, they are produced by ignorance. No matter whether pure or impure, in the true mind, they can mingle without resistance. Because we cling, they mingle with resistance. It does not mean that we don't know what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is healthy, what is unhealthy. We, of course, know it, but in terms of the conventional reality. And this conventional reality exists only on the base of the true reality, which we can never abandon. Because it is in this tradition, it is the nature of our mind. How can we abandon the nature of the mind? No way. Oh, the battery is, how can I help? The battery is over. What is it? Yeah, the time is also almost over, and battery also almost over. Ah, something has happened. So battery is not over. Our lesson is also not completely over. And the this is we come also to Chinese philosophy. This treatise, many people believe, is based on the uh, was written possibly by some enlightened Chinese monk, not by uh, the Ashwagosha. This uh, true mind is endowed with inexhaustible energy, with inexhaustible wisdom, inexhaustible lucidity, and we can uh, get contact with it when we have contact with this highest reality. As, so when the mind moves in Chinese philosophy, it moves because of chi, because of prana. And the prana, the battery of the prana, is inexhaustible. It is based on the true mind, which is also inexhaustible, which has inexhaustible potential. And that is what is to be realized. Inexhaustible wisdom, inexhaustible potential, inexhaustible clarity. How do we relate to it? By faith. Therefore, awakening of faith in Mahayana. Mahayana means non-dualistic approach to understanding of reality. So still, in our case, we understand the principle which is non-dualistic and the phenomena which are dualistic. They are opposed to each other. But in this true mind, they are not opposed. Principle is not opposed to the phenomena. Phenomena are not opposed between themselves. And everything manifests in terms of course, of characteristics, in terms of signs of object, in terms of feelings, in terms of objects. But they are ungraspable. That which grasps them is our ignorance, which moves the mind. So how are they manifested? How this this karmic consciousness which manifests the characteristics of samsara, how are they manifested? Question. By the truth that all dharmas are nothing but mind only. Chittamatrata, the mind only. There is no other reality than the mind, which this true mind, which is our true self, is free from thinking. It does not need to think. When we think, we can only think in terms of the relative reality. We cannot think in terms of the highest reality. So Buddha, when we work with the Buddha Dharmas, we don't need to think. We don't think for ourselves. We think for others. Thinking becomes the skillful means to reveal the highest reality. And that is why we will learn the Buddha reveals himself in regard to the conventional thinking of the beings, what the beings can see, what the beings can hear, what the beings can believe, what the beings can digest. So the Buddha manifests the Buddha Dharmas, manifests the suchness. He himself, he does not need to think. We need to think because, as the scripture explains, we have something is missing. So we have to think. When we think according to the scripture because something seems to be missing. But in that true mind, nothing is missing. That does not mean that thinking is good or bad, but it appears inseparable from the true mind. There is nothing else than this true mind. So when the mind appears, when thinking appears, it is only illusory thinking. There is no true thinking in this reality, in the highest reality, in the reality of the true mind. So only when this aspect of pujye, of nobody, of no realization is revealed, we start to think and rely on thinking. When we rely on thinking as something real, we are revealing the non-enlightened aspect of the mind. Who reveals this non-enlightened aspect of the mind? The alaya, in which we have learned the true mind, which does not need to think, and the illusionary mind, which relies on thinking, they are one, inseparable. That is why it is called store consciousness. It has stored everything so that on the base of this storage, like the computer, the mind can move. So when the mind thinks and when the mind sees something as being really there, as being the gochara, as being the pasture of the mind on which it can grasp, on which it can grow. The cows grow on the pasture, the mind grows on the understanding that these outer objects are really there. But the one who understands them to be really there is the illusory mind, as we have learned before. But this illusory mind is our ignorance. As soon as we hold to it as something real. So let us finish here. Our time has passed, and we will start not next week, but after 2 weeks, right? Vienna, what date is it?
Yes,
In
Master.
January?
4th January.
January 4. Okay. January 4 is easy to remember. So let us meet on January 4. Now I will go to Slovakia and move around. So, and you have also some activities in Indonesia, right?
Yes, Master.
During the Christmas. So please, we have 2 weeks. Prepare some good questions, give me some challenge so that I can think. Just like the author of this treatise always gives him a challenge, and then he tries to find the solution. If we don't have a challenge, we don't find a solution. Like recently, I had the challenge of being deprived of all my property. Now, fortunately, it has not been completely lost. And through this challenge, I got some smart ideas. So please challenge the author, challenge myself with all the imperfections, and try to understand better the philosophy of this treatise. It is very useful, extremely useful. That's why it has had such a deep influence on practically all living schools of Chinese Buddhism. And its influence in continues even today, and it will continue in the future, because the main school of Chinese Buddhism, all great thinkers in these schools, they all like to refer to this treatise, no matter whether they propagate the Pure Land, they propagate the Chan, they propagate the Tiantai, they propagate Huayan. They all refer to this treatise as the source of inexhaustible wisdom. Omito. So, 愿以此功德，不计一切，我等一众生皆苦成佛道。May the merits of today's Dharma spread to all beings so that we attain the state of perfection. Omito. See you 4th of June.